What if I told you that abundance isn't about getting more? It's about recognizing what's already here. When you grow up with emotional scarcity, you learn to see the world through lack. Not enough love, not enough attention, not enough safety, not enough of what you needed most. And you carry that lens into adulthood, always scanning for what's missing, always aware of the empty spaces, always hungry for something just out of reach. I'm Judi Bommarito, and this is healing card number 22, Cultivate Abundance. Last week, Imperfection taught you to stop waiting for perfect. This week, Abundance teaches you to stop waiting for enough. Because what if you already have what you need to heal? What if abundance has been available all along and you just couldn't see it through the lens of scarcity? I grew up in emotional poverty. My mother was there physically, but absent emotionally. Her mind crowded with voices that weren't mine. Her gaze focused on a reality I couldn't access. Every child learns to see the world through the lens their family provides. My lens was scarcity, not enough presence, not enough warmth, not enough of her actually being with me. I learned to make do with scraps of attention, fragments of connection, moments so brief they barely registered before they were gone. This teaches you something profound about scarcity. You learn to expect it. You learn that there's never enough. You learn to hoard what little you get. You learn to make yourself small so you won't need much. You learn to constantly scan for what's missing rather than what's present. And you carry this into everything. Relationships where you're always aware of what the other person isn't giving. Work where you focus on what you haven't accomplished. Healing where you measure how far you still have to go instead of how far you've come. The scarcity mindset doesn't just tell you there isn't enough. It tells you you aren't enough. That if you were enough, you would have received more. That lack is proof of your inadequacy. This is the lie scarcity tells, and it's time to learn a different story. When I started photographing my mother, I wasn't looking for abundance. I was documenting lack, the absence of a real relationship, the missing pieces of a mother-daughter connection. But something unexpected happened. In the midst of all that absence, I found presence. My camera became a way to witness what was actually there instead of constantly measuring what wasn't. The light in her dark room, the texture of her weathered hands, the humanity beneath the illness. In working with fragments, incomplete moments, imperfect images, a relationship that would never be what I'd hoped, I discovered I could create something whole. Not because the fragments magically filled the emptiness, but because I transformed them. I turned lack into language, absence into art, scarcity into story. This is what abundance actually means. Not the absence of lack, but the recognition of what's present, even in the midst of what's missing. Abundance isn't about having everything. It's about working with what you have and discovering it's enough to create something meaningful. Here's what the scarcity mindset hides from you. You are already abundant. Not in what you are given, but in what you've built. You survived an environment that didn't meet your needs. That's not just survival, that's resourcefulness. That's creativity. That's strength you didn't know you were building. You learn to read situations, manage emotions, navigate complexity. These aren't deficits, they're capacities. They're forms of abundance. You developed resilience, adaptability, the ability to make something from nothing, to find connection in unlikely places, to create safety when none was provided. The scarcity lens says, Look at what you didn't get. Look at what you're still missing. Look at how far behind you are. The abundance lens says, look at what you built with so little. Look at the capacity you developed. Look at how far you've come with tools no one gave you. You've been abundant all along. You just couldn't see it because you were looking for the wrong kind of abundance. You were looking for what they should have given you instead of recognizing what you created for yourself. Your painful story is abundance. Not because pain is good, not because you should be grateful for suffering, but because your story, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, is rich with meaning, insight, and the possibility to help others. I resisted this for years. My story felt like proof of scarcity, proof of what I didn't get, proof of loss. But when I finally shared it through photography, through workshops, through speaking, I discovered the abundance hidden in my most painful experiences. Every person who said, "Me too," every person who felt less alone because I was willing to be honest, every person who found permission to tell their own story because I told mine first, that's abundance. Not material wealth or emotional perfection, but the wealth of shared human experience. The abundance of connection through vulnerability. The richness of meaning created from pain. Your story, the one you think is too broken, too messy, too much, is actually abundant. It's full of wisdom you've earned, full of strength you've demonstrated, full of capacity you've built, full of potential to help someone else who's walking a similar path. But you have to shift from the scarcity narrative to the abundance narrative, from look at what I didn't get to look at what I created anyway. The most powerful form of abundance is the kind you create, not the kind you're given. My mother couldn't give me the emotional abundance I needed. No amount of wishing changed that. But I could create abundance from what was available. Fragments of connection, the lessons her absence taught me, the capacity I built navigating her illness, the art I made from our imperfect story. I created a body of work that transforms absence into presence, scarcity into abundance, loss into legacy. You can do this too. Not necessarily through art, but through the way you metabolize your experience. You can create abundance of wisdom from your painful lessons, compassion from your suffering, boundaries from your losses, voice from your silence, connection from your isolation, purpose from your pain. This isn't about making your pain worth it. Pain isn't transactional, but it is transformable. You can take the raw material of your hardest experiences and create something abundant from them. Not because you have to, not because you should, but because you can. And when you do, scarcity loses its grip. Last week, imperfection taught you to release the demand for perfect. This week, abundance shows you what flows in when scarcity releases its grip. When you stop focusing on what's missing, you can finally see what's present. When you stop waiting for others to fill you, you can access what's already within you. When you stop measuring lack, you can recognize richness. I spent years focused on what my mother couldn't give me. The attention, the emotional availability, the presence. And as long as I was focused there, I was living in scarcity. There was never enough because what I wanted wasn't available. But when I shifted, when I stopped measuring what was missing and started working with what was present, abundance appeared. Not because anything external changed. My mother was still ill. The relationship was still limited, but I stopped defining my life by that limitation. And suddenly, I had abundance of creative expression, abundance of connection with others, abundance of purpose, abundance of meaning. None of it came from her. All of it came from my willingness to create abundance rather than wait for it. Here's the connection to the Crone phase. You can't forgive from a place of scarcity. When you're still focused on what you didn't get, forgiveness feels impossible. How can you forgive someone for withholding what you desperately needed? How can you let go when you're still empty? But from the place of abundance, when you recognize you've built capacity, created meaning, developed strength, forgiveness becomes possible. Not because they deserve it, but because you no longer need them to fill what you've learned to provide for yourself. I can hold my mother's story with more compassion now because I'm no longer desperately needing her to be different. I have created abundance in my life that doesn't depend on her changing retroactively. I found what I need from myself, from others, from my creative work, from connection. That abundance gives me the freedom to forgive imperfectly, to release her from the impossible job of going back in time and being who I needed, to see her humanity without it threatening mine. Scarcity holds grudges because it can't afford to let go. Abundance forgives because it no longer needs what the other person couldn't give. Cultivating abundance is a practice, not a destination. It's a daily choice to shift your lens from lack to present. It doesn't mean pretending you have everything you need. It means recognizing what you do have, even when it's not what you wanted, even when it's not enough, even if you wish it were different. Some days, abundance looks like, I have the capacity to feel this hard feeling. Some days, it's, I have the courage to set this boundary. Some days, it's, I have one person who really sees me. Some days, it's, I have the strength to show up for myself today. These aren't small things pretending to be abundance. These are actual abundance that you can't see when you're focused on what's missing. The practice is retraining your eyes, from scanning for lack to noticing presence, from measuring deficiency to recognizing sufficiency, from waiting for more to working with what's here. Here's this week's practice, the abundance inventory. Do this once a day for 7 days. It takes 2 minutes. In the morning, set the intention. Place your hand on your heart and say aloud, today I will notice what's present, not just what's missing. In the evening, take the inventory. Before bed, answer these 3 questions, out loud or in your mind. 1. What capacity did I have today that I've built for myself? Examples might be the ability to set a boundary, the courage to speak up, the strength to feel a hard feeling. 2. What moment of connection, meaning, or beauty did I notice? Even small moments, such as a good conversation, sunlight through a window, something that made you smile. 3. What resource do I have access to that the scarcity mindset would overlook? Examples such as my own wisdom, my resilience, my creativity, one safe relationship, the progress I've made. That's it. No writing required, just noticing, just speaking it into acknowledgments. You're training your brain to see abundance that's been there all along. Set a daily alarm labeled Abundance Inventory for your evening practice. When it sounds, stop and answer the 3 questions. Abundance isn't about getting everything you needed. It's about recognizing everything you've built, created, and become, despite not getting what you needed. Last week, imperfection taught you to release the wait for perfect. This week, abundance teaches you to release the wait for enough. Because you already have enough. Not enough from what was withheld from you. That will always be a loss. But enough to heal, enough to create, enough to find meaning, enough to help others, enough to live fully. The scarcity mindset keeps you small, focused on lack, waiting for someone else to fill you. The abundance mindset sets you free to recognize what you've always had, the capacity to create what you need from whatever materials are available. My mother couldn't give me emotional abundance, but from the fragments that were available, our brief moments of connection, the lessons I learned navigating her illness, even her absence, I created something abundant, a body of work, a deeper understanding, a way to help others, a life of meaning and purpose. That's the abundance I'm inviting you into. Not the fantasy abundance where you got everything you needed, but the real abundance where you create something meaningful from what you have. What abundance have you been overlooking while focused on what's missing? What have you built that you're not giving yourself credit for? Share in the comments one form of abundance you're committing to recognize this week. And subscribe to continue this journey into Crone wisdom. Next week, card 23, rediscovering joy. Because once you can see abundance, joy becomes possible again, even in the midst of an imperfect story. Practice your abundance inventory every evening this week. Notice what's present. Acknowledge what you've built. Recognize what you have access to right now. The waning moon continues to invite release. Release scarcity. Release the wait for others to fill you. Release the story that you don't have enough. You are abundant in ways you haven't yet recognized. The Crone sees this clearly. It's time you see it too. Take good care.